the left to the right. Call the meeting to order. The Wilmington City Council. I'd like to welcome all those who are with us this evening, all those who are watching us at home. Thank you for taking an interest in your government. At this time, I'd like to call on Sergeant Ronald Evans, who's the chaplain of the Wilmington Police Department, for the invocation. I'll ask everybody to stand and then stand afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance. Sergeant, welcome.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for this day. We thank you for your continued grace and mercy that you bestow upon us day in and day out. We ask that you continue to cradle us in your arms, hold us close to your bosom, cover us with your blood, and provide us protection so that no hurt, harm, or danger shall come upon us. We ask that you continue to give the wisdom, continued grace, and to continue mercy to the minds and the hearts of the leaders of this city, as well as the citizens. We thank you for everything that you have done in our lives. Thank you for everything that you're doing, and thank you for everything that you're going to do. In your precious Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item of business is our consent agenda, items 1 through 3. Are there any items that any council member would like to hear separately? If not, what are the wishes of this council? We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Anderson, second by Councilmember Waddell. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item of business, which is our public information segment. We have 4 speakers that have signed up to speak with us this evening. Each speaker will be allotted 5 minutes. First speaker is Mr. Shamar Carr, who will be speaking to us about Section 8, Life at the Villas. Is Mr. Carr here? Okay. Go to our next speaker, Mr. Michael Walker, who will be talking about selecting floors of PPD/Thermo Fisher building. Is Mr. Walker here? Yes, sir, Mr. Walker.
All right, my name is Michael Walker. I live on Harnett Street, just a few blocks away from the PPD Thermo Fisher building. And I want to thank you for allowing me to speak with you today. I'd like to share my thoughts and what I'm hearing from the community about which floors the City of Wilmington should occupy in the PPD Thermo Fisher building. Last session, there were 3 or 4 elements you guys shared. Estimated cost, potential rental revenue, ego was mentioned, and there was a sense of entitlement or deserving of something first class. Now I'm going to ignore ego and entitlement because I think there's no place for that in a healthy, ethical decision-making process, especially one involving public funds. I'm also going to ignore speculation on rental revenue, but I am willing to talk about it later if you'd like. Government offices, just my quick thoughts, do not seem like the best, highest use for the most beautiful view in the city, and you've said it yourself last session that Wilmington is a much different market than average America. Businesses and entrepreneurs will be falling over themselves at a chance to rent out the top floors, whether for offices or other uses. But we can agree to disagree. Debating renting out the top or bottom floors would be a lot of guesswork and should hold less weight than known factors. And that's what I want to focus on, known factors, specifically cost, and more specifically, one-time cost versus recurring cost. So we have estimates for refitting the 4th floor, and we know they're significant. Mayor Saffo, you've focused on that a lot, I believe, in the last session. We also have estimates for maintaining the top floors, and those are higher than maintaining the bottom floors, as I understand it. Now, I've submitted a request for information to get those exact estimates, but I've not received that yet, so I need to make 2 assumptions, and I'm going to try to be very conservative with these assumptions. So for the 4th floor refit, again, a one-time cost, let's say it's $800,000. We were told last session it would not be in the millions, that it would be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we're going in on the high end. We also have the yearly maintenance for the top 3 floors, and let's say those are $100,000, and that's all of them combined per year, which seems reasonable given the $3 million total estimate for maintaining the building. So with those in mind, and talking about occupying the top floors and what that looks like, Mayor Saffo, you're right, we will have saved money immediately in that first year, and we will have done that with these assumptions in mind for the first 3 years. Sorry, I need to go to the next slide. But we would have saved money for the first 7 years. But in year 8, 2031, we hit a break-even point, and we have actually cost taxpayers $200,000 by 2033, and those additional top floor maintenance costs continue adding up year after year. Now, the city of Wilmington will exist for a long time and own this building for a long time. We are not Wall Street or crypto day traders. Long-term impact should be valued more than short-term, so let's look at it from a long-term perspective. By 2043, the top floors, with these assumptions in mind, will have cost taxpayers $1,200,000 more than if we occupied the bottom floors. And by 2053, you will have cost taxpayers $2,200,000. And each decade is another $1 million that could go back into supporting and serving our community. If you think this is an insignificant amount, then please, please ask me where that extra money could go to help our community. I have ideas that would make a big impact, and I'm sure others do too. And remember, these are conservative numbers, I believe. The actual cost to taxpayers should be larger than what I've shared, and this is without considering inflation. Occupying the top floors means a bigger impact from inflation. So you decided to buy this building with long-term thinking. I agreed with that. I still think it makes a lot of sense. But the city occupying the top floors of the PPD Thermo Fisher building is short-term thinking, and it is fiscally irresponsible. The median household income in Wilmington is $51,000. I challenge all of you to speak with 10 individuals from such households who don't work for or with the city, and then ask them which floors they think city employees should occupy. Every person I have talked with is appalled the city is planning to occupy the top floors, except for one. And that one person mistakenly thought the 4th floor refit would cost millions of dollars. So to wrap this up, I am looking forward to getting the actual cost estimates so I can calculate exactly how much money taxpayers would lose by the city occupying the top floors. And I look forward to sharing that information with you and with the rest of my community. If you truly represent us and want to do what is fiscally responsible in the long term, then you should agree that the city should not occupy the top floors of the PPD Thermo Fisher building. Everything else is ego. That's my time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Mr. Stephen Aaron, who will be speaking to us about Mayor Memorial Bridge and rail realignment. Is Mr. Aaron in? Mr. Aaron? Okay. Ms. Janelle Rossetti, I believe I pronounced that properly, who's speaking to us about safe crosswalks at major intersections.
Thank you to the City Council for allowing me to come here and speak with you tonight. My name is Janelle Rossetti. I'm a healthcare provider with Wilmington Health and a parent of 4 children, all who have attended or currently attend Murray Middle School or Ashley High School in the Veterans Park Complex. I'm here tonight to bring attention to the impact of not having sidewalks and crosswalks at major intersections is having on our community. A community without basic infrastructure that supports public transport has obvious effects on physical health and causes inequality between people who can afford cars and those that cannot, in addition to causing excessive traffic on our roads and pollution in our air. I work at a family medicine clinic located at Monkey Junction. My partner, Dr. Jessica Burkett, and I are some of the few primary care providers accepting and providing care in our area to children who have Medicaid and Carolina Access as their health insurance. This population is commonly the disadvantaged. They don't own vehicles. They're forced to rely on our city bus system to get to families' medical appointments. This is also true of our elderly population who no longer are able to drive themselves to their appointments safely. I have witnessed single moms pushing strollers and clutching the hands of small children as they dart across College Road to get to the family's medical appointments, since the bus stop near our office is on the other side of the road. I've also seen our geriatric patients with walkers attempting to cross the intersection from the bus stop to get to our office. I know this is the experience that I've had with my children, but talking with my patients and with parents in the community, I'm finding that this is not unique to me and my family. Ashley High School is where my son plays soccer, and he's missing out on having talented and economically vulnerable peers join the team because they do not have the advantages of a personal vehicle like my son has, or parents who are free to take them to and from practice, since practice and games are outside of the hours of the school bus. This is also true of student government, drama, and any other extracurricular activities that can be offered in middle school and high school. If you have a car or a family with a car to get you there, you can participate, but if you don't, there's no safe way for students to walk to and from school, since there is not a crosswalk at the intersection across Carolyn Beach Road that serves 3 large schools in the Veterans Park complex or one across River Road. There is right now a crisis of a shortage of bus drivers in New Hanover County schools, and students who live within 2 miles of school are told they're not allowed to ride the bus. Yet there are neighborhoods full of students on the other side of Carolyn Beach Road who do not have the option to take the bus, have no way to cross Carolyn Beach Road, so they have to have parents drive them to school just to get across the intersection, or they're forced to dart across 55-mile-per-hour traffic to get their school on the other side of the road. The absence of sidewalks does not encourage or promote people to take walks, ride bikes, or otherwise engage in modest exercise that promotes health, and also unnecessarily congest our roads with cars of parents who are forced to drive their students to and from school activities. I'm specifically asking the City Council to immediately engage in activities that will result in crosswalks being installed at multiple points across busy thoroughfares, such as College Road and Carolyn Beach Road. The crosswalks should strategically be placed in areas where children and parents need traffic to slow down so they can get to common destinations, such as health clinics and schools. By looking at this issue and taking it into account, the city would be decreasing traffic on the roads, decrease the demand for school bus drivers, allow for wholesome activities outside school hours for the economically disadvantaged in our community, improve the health of children in our community during a time when child obesity is listed as a major health crisis in children as well as adults, improve the safety of pedestrians in our city, which has seen an increase in car versus pedestrian accidents as our traffic and population in Wilmington continues to grow. I would like to know when this ask could be taken up for serious consideration by the City Council, and would like directives if there's another arena that this issue could be discussed, since I know some of the areas where schools and clinics are in New Hanover County are under City Council jurisdiction, and some are under county jurisdiction. Thank you for your time.
Janelle, I would appreciate you sharing that with us. Are you talking about specifically there at Veterans Park there going into Ashley High School?
I mean, that's my situation, but really any intersection that serves. My son during COVID was at Myrtle Grove Christian. I work at a clinic at Monkey Junction. I had to find a driver or quit my job just for him to get from Myrtle Grove Christian to my office. He could have walked across the street to my office, done his homework, and I luckily have a nice mother-in-law who did it for me. But all the intersections for these schools, we could really decongest all these roads if we just had a safe way for kids to walk across.
Well, I do know that all of our schools within the incorporated city limits, that we do work with the Department of Transportation as well as ourselves in making sure that we try to have crosswalks and sidewalks. In the area that you just shared with us is in the unincorporated areas, but we'll be more than happy to share your comments with the MPO director and with the state, because since the counties don't build roads and don't make road improvements, but they do have a say, and they do sit on the MPO. That's a great place to make certain that they are aware of it, so to see if we can get some state funding to be able to do that, because that is a state road, but we do interact with them all the time and try to ask for more of that, as we do on all of our roadways. We share your concerns, because we do have a lot of people that are out there riding their bikes, walking. We have the Cross City Trail, getting to and from different parts of the road or on the other side of a street is very important to us. But we definitely want to share those comments with the state and with the other officials that have things that they can help us with.
Okay.
We appreciate it.
much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. This concludes our public information segment. We have our next item of business, which is our public hearings. Item PH1, which is an ordinance amending the official zoning maps of the city to rezone property containing 23.33 acres of land located at 3818 Carolina Beach Road and 3930 Independence Boulevard from R15 Moderate Density Single Dwelling District to MD 17 CD High Density Multi-Dwelling Residential Conditional District for a 257-unit residential development. This was continued from our August 1st, 2023 meeting, and I will also note that whoever makes the motion must read a consistency statement for the record. So at this time, I'd like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Caudle. Mr. Caudle?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, and members of council. Assistant Planning Director Brian Chambers will overview this item for us.
Good evening, members of council. This site is located on the north side of Independence Boulevard at its intersection with Carolina Beach Road. It's approximately 23 acres in size and it's currently vacant. This map shows the site within the context of the surrounding area. You can see Southgate neighborhood to the north, and then the Crossroads Center to the south across Independence Boulevard. There's also several photos of the subject site. There are several photos of surrounding properties looking north on Carolina Beach Road and northwest on Independence Boulevard. And then the bottom two photos would be of the Crossroads Center that's located across Independence Boulevard from the site. And then we do have a few photos from the Southgate neighborhood, which is located directly north of the site. The site is surrounded by residential and commercial zoning. A single dwelling neighborhood is located to the north. Multiple dwelling apartments are located directly south. And as I stated, the Crossroads Center is located to the south across Independence Boulevard. The applicant is proposing to rezone this property to an MD 17 multiple dwelling conditional district for 257 unit residential development. The project includes 242 apartments located in 5 4-story buildings and 15 townhomes located in 5 2-story buildings. The applicant proposes to construct a new residential collector street off of Independence Boulevard to provide access to the site. The proposal also includes a secondary access on Carolina Beach Road. Traffic data indicates that there would be an increase in estimated vehicle trips when compared to the maximum density allowed under current zoning. Based on the estimated trip generation, a traffic impacts analysis was required. The improvements agreed upon as part of that process include right-in, right-out driveways at access number 1 and number 2, shown on your screen, a westbound right turn lane on Independence Boulevard at access number 1, and then upgrading Independence Boulevard to accommodate a safe U-turn movement. The proposal would require a minimum of 467 parking spaces and allow for a maximum of 707. The applicant is proposing 504 parking spaces. There will be a minimum of 30 bicycle parking spaces required through the project. A multi-use path is required along Independence Boulevard frontage, and this will connect to the existing path located to the west along Independence. The condition has been included in the ordinance that requires a signalized pedestrian crosswalk be provided across Independence Boulevard to allow residents to access the commercial services at the Crossroads Center. A 20-foot wide transitional buffer is required adjacent to the existing single family. Any existing trees or shrubs located within that buffer are required to be retained. There are also a significant amount of wetlands located on this site. The majority of these wetlands are being protected. However, the applicant is proposing to impact a portion to provide access. I just wanted to make sure that everyone's aware that a wetland impact permit would be required for these improvements prior to construction release. The site is located within a greenfield site mixed-use place, area of opportunity. It's located along one of our high-capacity transit routes. The comprehensive plan calls for infill development that maintains and enhances the desired character and increases housing options. The plan calls for new residential development to set aside usable open space that preserves natural landscapes and high-quality ecological resources. And the plan calls for increased density along our transit routes and near commercial services. This proposed rezoning would allow for a quality infill development that is compatible. It provides an increase in density near our services and along the identified transit route and preserves a significant amount of natural area. Staff believes this request is consistent with our comprehensive plan and the request is reasonable in the public interest, and we are recommending conditional approval. At the Planning Commission meeting, they voted unanimously to recommend approval of this request. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I believe the applicant is prepared to make a presentation as well.
Are there any questions for staff? Yes, Mr. Anderson.
Brian, couple questions. I guess I'll go with I'll go short first. The stub out thing from the other neighborhood, I just remember, so seems like we've been doing those for the last I don't know, quite a while in different neighborhoods, commercial, different places for later. And kind of that, I guess that bothers me because if we're not going to use them. So why, this one has some issues with wetlands? Is that the main?
Well, there is a significant wetland, there's a significant stream on that side of the property, but the most important thing here is there's a private property that's located between this site and the neighborhood that cannot be crossed without that owner's approval. They don't have direct access to that stub.
So that line there, those two lines, that's some kind of easement?
It's a fee simple parcel. I don't know if I got it, you can kind of see it there between the green and the black lines.
I do. My fault. Okay, got that. Go back to your, yeah, that one. Can you tell me, like, what improvements to the intersection is the applicant proposing to make? There'll be this U-turn, I guess there'll be kind of like a bulb there to make it easy? Is that kind of the?
Right now, they're looking at a widening of Independence to accommodate a U-turn at the left turn at the entrance to the crossroads.
So that U-turn will align with the crossroads?
Yeah, there's a driveway, the second access to the crossroads, and then there's a driveway to the apartment complex to the north, so that at that intersection, that's where the widening would occur, and the U-turn movement would be accommodated.
And that's advisable without a light, to have all those movements?
Like,
Yep, you're creating an intersection, right? Four directions, right?
Yes.
And we're just gonna have U-turns in the middle of that without any kind of light?
There'll be a yield condition, I think, long-term, we'd like to see a signal there, but I'd have to defer to engineering on those improvements.
Okay, and they're making no improvements to the intersection itself, is that right?
Other than widening it and readjusting the left turn to make that U-turn movement.
No, I'm talking about up at the main intersection.
At Independence and Carolina Beach Road, I believe the pedestrian crosswalks are the improvements they're making there.
They're making one?
We have a condition for one, but I think there might be multiple in the TIA that's under review.
Okay, and that'll be presented by the TIA by whom?
We can confirm that. The city's traffic engineer is here this evening, and the applicant will be able to speak to that as well.
Okay. You know, this has been on our radar for some time, and it's real high on our radar now. Been talking about it a lot of late, what we're gonna do with Independence long-term. Are the trail and the sidewalks that they're building, are they built to accommodate that future, improvement, or is it something where it'd just be ripped up?
No, they're being located on the edge of the right-of-way to allow for the future improvement to occur.
Okay. Same for coming off Carolina Beach. It seems like if you were taking a right, you'd anticipate a right turn lane there at some point. Is that?
There's a pinch point there at Carolina Beach Road because of those large power poles, so there's not a lot you can do as far as a right turn off of Carolina Beach Road.
Okay. I think the last thing that it just captured me when I'm looking at it, because it's a great looking plan, but I'm just so interesting. This is a little more philosophical. Are we changing away from kind of this corner that seems like it asks for commercial and residential behind it, or a mix? I mean, I just don't remember seeing a project in a long time like this where it's just pure residential on a major corner like this.
We did suggest that to the applicant. I think that their product type and the program they had scheduled just wouldn't accommodate it, so we did work with them to bring the buildings up to kind of frame in the corner. But you're right, there is no commercial component on this.
So that's not something we're really standing on as in terms of
I think in this situation, we saw that the commercial activity located across the street, Independence, was sufficient enough to provide those services in the area, so the residential on the corner was a little bit more favorable.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Waddell?
Brian, you may have gone over this already. Where's the widening occurring? You said they were widening, it's a right turn and the U-turn?
Yeah, I have a slide. This is very preliminary. I can't speak to how this will actually be designed in the end. This is what's being discussed right now for that improvement. Again, this will change. This is just a sketch up and see how it would work. It still has to be finalized through design, but that's generally what it would look like in design.
Okay.
One last thing, I asked you this morning but the in and out on the right turn in, right turn out on to Independence, that will be, you will not be able to take a left there. Is that correct? I mean, the city, we're going to see to that. Is that right?
There's going to be a concrete divider as you come out that forces you right. I don't know that it's been determined what will be in the median itself to not allow that to occur, but if that's a condition that you'd like to see, then we can make sure there's paddles or some kind of raised median in that location.
Well, I hate paddles, but I'm just, and this reminds me, I mean, there's some, you know, at Oleander and Independence. I mean, there's offices where people try to take a left across the traffic, and it creates, there's wrecks, it creates all kinds of backups. It's just, I mean, I wish it were somewhere else altogether, further from the intersection, but that close to the intersection just seems to be, people are going to, just because it has that V, that doesn't mean anything. They're going to still take a left. So I'll let the whole board decide if that's a condition, but it's just a question I wanted to ask.
Understood.
Brian, the distance from the intersection at Carolina and Independence up to the right in, right out on Carolina Beach Road, approximately how many feet is that?
I'd have to go refer to the plans. I don't have that in front of me right now.
Okay.
I will say that entrance is as far as it can possibly be because of the property lines.
Okay. There will be people that will come out of that and try to get all the way over to the turn lane to go up Independence. I mean, it's just human nature. I would. So, but the further away, you're right, and that's as far as it can go, so be it. On the other one is certainly where your latest diagram right here, that certainly is further away from the intersection than the one on Carolina Beach Road. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So from that one up to the U-turn, and I know you said it's temporary, I mean preliminary or not set in stone yet, is that right?
Right, this is just a concept they're working on, but there's general agreement that there will be an accommodated U-turn movement.
Who is they, the developer?
The MPO and the developers.
Okay. So the plan for northbound traffic would be to come out of that right in, right out, go to that U-turn, make a U-turn to get back into the queue.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay.
Thank you.
Brian. At this time, I'd like to recognize the applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. My name is Colin Tarrant. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Block, Crouch & Keeter here in Wilmington. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Chaucer Creek Capital LLC. I'd like to introduce our development team who's also here with me today. We have Mr. Edmund Waddell, who is here on behalf of the applicant, Chaucer Creek. We have Brian Genest, who is our landscape architect. His firm was also responsible for the land planning and engineering of the project. Mr. Chuck Travis is our architect, and Mr. Ronald Stevenson is our traffic engineer from Ramey Kim. So they are here with us tonight, and they will be able to answer any specific questions that any members of council may have for the applicant as it pertains to any of the details that we speak about during our presentation or otherwise. I'm not going to repeat a lot of what Brian said. I think staff does a wonderful job of giving an appropriate amount and excess detail in their staff report, and obviously he's addressed some questions, but I do have a little bit of a presentation, and then we will jump right into any questions that council may have as to any of the specific items. As Brian has said, the property address is made up of two properties, two larger parcels, making up about 23 acres right there on the corner of Carolina Beach Road and Independence Boulevard. So as you can see, there's a parcel A and a parcel B. Approximately 13 acres for parcel A and about 10 acres for parcel B. These are currently zoned R15. Our request is a conditional rezoning from the R15 to an MD17 conditional district. Here's a overhead view of the location and its close proximity across the street from the existing Crossroads Shopping Center. You can see located to the north, the Southgate Park, a single-family residential community, as well as the Hawthorne at Indy West, which is an existing MD-17 multi-use or multifamily, development directly below along Independence Boulevard. Our request is for 242 apartments, a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, as well as 15 townhomes for a total of 257 units. This works out to about 11 units per acre. That's considerably less than what is allowed in our MD-17. The allowable density under that MD-17 is approximately 396 units. So this proposal is coming in about 139 units less than what would be allowed under the MD-17. Obviously, the reduced density that we're requesting has come about due to some very unique topographical, environmental characteristics of the property. We've laid this out in order to try to be sensitive to a considerable amount of wetlands that are located on these parcels. When you add in the wetlands and the tree save, we're looking at approximately 7 acres of that 23 that is undisturbed. That is by design. We have worked extensively with staff. This is not something that was thrown together quickly. It has come about, this design has come about over a period of months, approximately a year of discussions, many different renditions. I feel absolutely confident saying this is a collaborative effort between our development team and the planning staff to try to do what we felt was best from a design element as it pertains to this particular property. Here's a more detailed site aerial of the property. As you can see, we do have the ingress and egress off Carolina Beach Road and Independence Boulevard. We're hemmed in on that particular spot. There's no other means of ingress and egress at any other point. It was talked about by Brian Chambers during his staff's presentation that we are stuck trying to go to the north through Southgate. We are unable to go through Hawthorne at Indy West. Essentially, at both of those particular points, we have an extensive amount of wetlands. This property is just, it is pervasive throughout the entire site. So we're working with what we have. We are in the Greenfield site, multi-use place of opportunity as shown on the growth strategies map. This was in the planning staff's report. We are consistent with those adopted plans, whether it's the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan or the CAMA Land Use Plan and some of the others, which I'll go into. But we did talk about the environmental, we talked about the wetlands, and there were some questions by Councilman Anderson already about the TIA and some of the improvements that are going to be required of us along that Independence Boulevard in order to meet some of the traffic considerations. Here's just an overview of what we've already talked about as far as environmental and buffering. Again, here are 2 means of ingress and egress. And this was the proposed U-turn design that has been agreed upon by the applicant and WMPO and the city generally as far as a concept for how to deal with the traffic on Independence Boulevard. This is the same schematic that that staff pulled up during their presentation in response to the questions by Mr. Anderson. It's obvious that this will need to be hashed out during TRC, excuse me. There are considerable technical issues that will need to be ironed out, but generally this is the concept that we have worked tirelessly, I can represent to the council with the city, and we must give credit where credit's due. They have been very, very easy to work with. We have been able to have a steady stream of communication to work through what is a very complicated issue as far as how we deal with the traffic on Independence Boulevard. Right now, that general design is to have the U-turn located in this particular area across from that Crossroads Shopping Center down from the ingress and egress to the proposed project on Independence Boulevard directly in front of that Hawthorne parking lot. As I stated before, Mr. Ronald Stevenson, who is our traffic engineer, is available to answer any questions that that council may have. Here's an aerial view of that intersection. It's obviously taken some time ago. The Crossroads is not shown on here. It's a giant mound of dirt. Obviously, it looks much better now, but it does give a little bit more detail as to how the project would be situated on the corner and where the intersection is currently configured and how that U-turn would be located. Obviously, there would need to be some widening and tapering, and obviously some technical issues that would need to be worked out, but this gives some sort of aerial as well as the inlay of the project itself on the site. I will point out that in order to try to give it more of a commercial feel, this is a residential project that doesn't generally have any commercial components. We have stressed a commercial-like design for that corner piece where it will box in the remainder of the community, and that lower level will be where the leasing offices and some of the other commercial-like operations for the community will be operated in order to give it a feel of a commercial type development on that particular area. But no, this is a residential project. As I stated, CAMA plan, the Walk Wilmington plan, multi-use path along Independence Boulevard will connect with the existing multi-use path. We'll take into account and work with the city to make sure that we comply and take into account any locating issues that may come about by the Independence Boulevard widening project when that is funded and designed, and also with the Wilmington, New Hanover County Comprehensive Greenway Plan. This is just a wetlands delineation, so you can see exactly what I was speaking to. You can see the stub in at Pershing Court. You can see along the southern boundary of the property. It's essentially wetlands and creeks that run all through this. And we've taken great pains to try to design a project that winds through the parcels in order to avoid those wetlands, in order to leave as little impact as possible, 0.35 acres out of that 23, and that's by design. Here is the inlay of the site plan itself, and you can see where we've tried to position our buildings, our roadways, the flow of the project itself to take into account those sensitive environmental issues. And bring us back to our 2 points of ingress and egress, which regardless of whether or not this is this project or some other project, the only particular way to get in and out is through Carolina Beach Road and Independence. So the issues that we're dealing with are the same issues that any other applicant, whether it was the R15 by right that could currently go in there or some other project, as it stands right now, there's no other way to get in and out. And somebody's gonna have to deal with the same issues that we're dealing with, and we're trying to work through those as best we can in a cooperative manner. At this time, instead of repeating myself over and over again, I do know that council does have questions. We do have a team here that's available to answer any of those questions. I might not be that person, but somebody else is here and could answer any of the questions that council may have for us.
Okay, we have a question from Councilman Anderson.
I'm just curious, this Indy West stub, this entrance with Independence Hawthorne, do you have any conversations with them on that well, I guess that's the east end, the end closest, just to get y'all further from the intersection?
Yeah, so let me just talk about quickly how these came about and why this is in our presentation. So during both DAC and Planning Board, these were questions that were raised. Well, can you guys connect to Hollins Road at Southgate? Can you guys connect through Indy West? So we wanted to make sure we highlighted exactly where those stubs are and kind of show again, here on the site plan, you can see, where the wetlands are. You can see where the issue is with the little parcel, a strip of land that separates Southgate from our project that we don't have under contract. there's just a multitude of issues of trying to get through there beyond whether or not those particular property owners want us to come through there. We've heard through our community meetings that Southgate was not interested, and that was the main reason that most people showed up to our community meeting, was to make sure that we weren't going to be connecting through their property. Now, again, we couldn't even consider it because of the issues that we've already talked about. But my understanding was that brought a great bit of relief to those community members that we wouldn't be connecting there. Indy at Hawthorne, if you look at this particular spot and you can't see it, there's the key and the site data is over top of it. It looks like a stub. It's really not. It's more of like a parking turnaround. It doesn't, I don't think it was ever intended to be a stub into our project or any other project over there.
Do you have a cursor? You can point that out?
Sure. Let me see. Do I have a cursor? Yeah. And I might be able to find a better. So this one might give you a better idea. If you look where the circle is, it's not a stub. It's more of a turnaround, if that, or just a extension of the parking area. But there's considerable wetlands all through from there into our particular site. The logistics of trying to design a way across those wetlands is it's just not really possible. I mean, I think everything in this project is a trade. And that, I think, has been the theme for us, and that we've worked very hard to try to be sensitive to different issues as best we can. And here, the environmental is considerable, including in that particular area.
You mentioned could you go back to the aerial that shows the sliver over there by Oak Grove Presbyterian Church? Where is the piece you said you don't have under contract?
See the red lines, the two red lines at the top?
Two parallel lines?
They run across the area in between those two parallel lines.
And that's critical to your development?
Well, it's not critical to our development. It would be critical if, in fact, we were trying to connect or could connect up to Southgate. We wouldn't be, right now, we can't cross that property. We don't own it or have it under contract.
Is everything else under contract?
Yes, sir.
And depending on what happens here tonight or whenever we decide, that's, okay.
Absolutely.
I ask that for good reason. We've gnashed our teeth over projects before and approved it. They go to TRC, whatever, and it drifts away, and 2 or 3 years goes by and nothing happens. I'm sure y'all will move as expediently as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I said before, this has been something that's, been in the works for a period of years. I mean, this is not something, we're not a fly-by-night operation. Mr. Waddell's here and can speak to that more on behalf of the applicant. But it's something that we've been working through for a long period of time with staff.
Okay. Well, perhaps you got 3 retention ponds there. Are they there because they were required? I know that the retention ponds take up valuable space. Are these there because you've got to have them to cover your percentage or your runoff?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all self-contained. I mean, we're going to be required to get the requisite permits through the state and local authorities, and we were required to have them. I mean, obviously, if we didn't need them, we wouldn't put them there.
I understand.
For sure.
I thought, but you're not incorporating some of the wetlands into your retention?
No, I don't think so. I think
Okay.
I think that's just all self-contained.
Heads nodding back there.
I was just making sure.
Sure, I understand. And the open area that you're leaving, I forget what number you said, it was like 7 acres or?
It's approximately 30%, 7 acres.
30%, and that's not inclusive of the wetlands. That's.
I believe that's wetlands and tree save. So that's both wetlands and tree save that we're required to do.
Okay. But there's plenty of upland open area left for tenant enjoyment.
Absolutely, and we do have a considerable amount of amenities planned for this particular project, which I'm happy to run through with you. But a fitness facility,
okay.
Clubhouse, pool, things like that, it's all included.
Take your word on that. And I have a question about your Independence right in, right out, and the U-turn. And I know that at some point, Independence is going to be limited access. And so that means, and I guess this would be for our people, that would mean that there would be other developments that are going to be facing this same situation. Is that right? Where they come out, they can't take lefts, they come out, go to the nearest U-turn.
That is correct. If you want specifics on what the design might be, engineering might be able to get
No,
a
sir.
better answer, but there would be restricted movements, and any turning movements would be located at a signal.
So I guess my reason to say it, this is just the first of some to come, more to come.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Barnett?
Yeah, thank you. You mentioned something about retail on the bottom floors. Can you go back over that for me and show me
Right.
that picture?
So just responding to some of the questions that Councilman Anderson had for staff when he was speaking about the corner there at Independence Boulevard and Carolina Beach, and would it be a good spot for commercial? You know, obviously, our project is a residential project, but from a design element, what we've tried to do is pull those buildings up to the road to give them a feel from a design element of a commercial space. It's not a commercial space, but the types of uses that will be on the bottom floor will be similar to a commercial type use, like a leasing office, like some of the amenities, you know, coffee availability, different things for the residents. It would give it the same type of feel from the road that if you're driving by, because of the design elements. So we have tried to work with staff to try to address that, but it is not a commercial space, not a traditional commercial space. It's a commercial looking space.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, sir. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Spears.
Now, I'm somewhat confused by that last statement. Is the commercial piece a part of this project? Is it necessary?
Not at all. So our project, the design that you see before you, the site plan, is a fully residential project.
Okay.
But because of the location on that intersection, from a design element, we've worked with staff to try to design the site plan and those particular buildings to give the same type of visible aesthetic that you would have for a more commercial space. It is not a commercial space. There are no commercial components with this application.
So you have people looking over there looking for commercial stuff that's not there? Yes.
Yes, I mean, I don't think, unless they had some specific reason to think there was something there for them, that they would go over there unless they wanted to potentially lease.
Oh, there it is. So look over there, it's commercial and residential. No, it's just residential. Come get an apartment. Now I just wanted to ask that because what you described was definitely not commercial. The leasing office and, you know, a space for coffee
Sure.
or for the residents, that's definitely not commercial. So that was
Yeah, we're absolutely, if there was any confusion there, it is not a commercial space. There is no commercial component. It is a commercial-looking design because
and
of
I
its
only
location.
ask that because we see projects now that have commercial space on the bottom and
Correct.
then residential going up. So that was part of the reason why I asked.
Understand.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This time I will open up the public hearing and ask if anyone in the public wishes to speak on item PH1. If you'll come forward, state your name and where you live, and the clerk, each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes, and time set is at 30.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Trish Ryu. I live at 754 Wharton Avenue. I'm on the traffic group that represents the homeowners in that area. I have spoken to the town council previously as well as the planning commission. Our concern, obviously, is with the traffic. It looks like a lovely development, but that section between Carolina Beach Road and River Road is a very heavily traveled area. It's approximately 1 mile. You're going from a 4-lane down to a 2-lane, and now somehow you're going to wrap a U-turn in here, as well as right only out. I don't know, we've been talking to you guys for months, and I know that you're aware of our concern. I'm just saying that I don't know how this is going to get pulled off without addressing Independence Road between Carolina Beach Road and River Road in its entirety. This just looks like adding to our nightmare. So whatever you do, just think it through, please, because it just doesn't, I don't see how this makes our situation any better. And if we're years out before we even get addressed, you're just going to make it worse. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Christine Pierce, and I live at 121 Southgate Road. I've heard a lot about the U-turn coming out on Independence from this new development proposal. My question is, what about the people, the traffic coming out of the crossroads needing to go back home down to Echo Farms or River Road? There's another left turn. So you're going to have a left turn and then a U-turn, basically butting heads at wherever you put that U-turn, because people are going to be coming out. There's an in and out access on Carolina Beach Road, 4 Crossroads further down. But how many people down River Road are going to be going to Carolina Beach Road to make the U-turn there, and then the light, and then down Independence? So I'm a little bit confused about why the traffic from Crossroads hasn't been addressed going left, making a left out of there, because it's just going to butt heads. Does that make any sense? Anyway, so that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to add in that I am now confused with you, ma'am. That's a good point.
Has that been considered, either staff or applicant?
Well, excuse me, real quick, we might have some more speakers, and I just want to give everybody the opportunity to speak, and then we can ask that question of the applicant. Anybody else? Okay. You want to come up and address that, please?
Good evening, Ronald Stevenson, Ramey Kemp Associates. And do you mind repeating specifically the question or issue that?
Well, we have a concern with the traffic that's coming out of Crossroads having some conflict with the people that would possibly be coming out of this subdivision or this apartment complex that could basically be almost running into each other. You can see it right here.
Yeah,
Am I saying that right?
Yes, sir.
Can you, do you have a point or two? So we make sure that we're both on the same wavelength here.
Right here.
Yeah, okay, this one right there, yeah.
Yeah, so a couple of things, a little bit more about this particular U-turn location. Well, let me back up 1 second. So as Colin mentioned, and Brian even mentioned, there's been a lot of conversation about how to handle the traffic and these U-turns and where this traffic is going to go given that we have a right-in, right-out on Independence Boulevard. So we looked at, I believe there were 5 different locations for U-turns that could possibly, where we thought they possibly could occur. And we came up with this location as the most feasible location, the one on the screen right here where the cursor is. We looked at this location here, didn't like it because it was really too close to the driveway, which the driveway is right in this area. So a little bit too close for that, and this particular driveway into the crossroads is more of the primary access point. There's more traffic coming in and out of that access point. So we didn't like that driveway. This was what we called the second option here. And I'll come back to that. Another option we looked at was further down into this area that had no driveways. However, when we started looking at this is wet all over here in this area, which made it pretty difficult to be able to accommodate a U-turn anywhere in that area. Another location we looked at is actually off the screen, down here at this driveway location. But again, the thought was there that that's just too far. They're not going to go that far to U-turn. So if we don't accommodate it in a space that they can actually utilize, they're just going to try to spin around in the road and do, some people will do some crazy things if we don't accommodate it. So leading all the way back to this location on the screen as the most logical place to accommodate the U-turn, one of the reasons we like it, it is a 4-leg intersection. But there is a left turn lane at this intersection today, and left turns are being made here today that conflict with, people coming out of the Indy West or out of Crossroads. So it's not that dissimilar to have a U-turn and a left turn there. So there are conflicts there today. One of the other reasons we like this location, as you can see here, this particular driveway is not set up as the main entrance for Crossroads. The parking, the shops, the buildings, they're all kind of situated in this area, which means if you're going out Independence, this is more of the primary access point for, for those retail uses. So, this intersection, less traveled, is in relatively close proximity to the right-in, right-out driveway from this development. And you can see some widening there that would need to occur along Independence to make that happen, make U-turn happen. So one thing I will point out too, another kind of safety feature that we'd be adding, we think, with this is there's no left turn lane currently now on Independence going into Indy West. So there's no left turn lane coming from River Road, River Lights, kind of turning left into here. But with the widening that we'll be doing, I would fully expect us to be able to stripe in a left turn lane there, even though it's not shown on this drawing. So that's a little bit of the background as to how we arrived at the U-turn at this location and why this concept drawing looks the way it does.
Okay, Ms. Rombart?
Thank you very much for that.
Yes, sir.
The intersection, the driveway that, the one driveway for that's closest to the intersection, would you put your cursor on that one?
Let's see if I can get this to come back up.
Right
this
there.
one here?
That's a full service?
Yes, sir.
That's full service?
Yes, sir.
They can go left, right, coming out of there, and people coming down Independence can turn left and get into Crossroads?
Yes, sir, that is correct. Yes,
And
sir.
you're now telling me that the one further up where you've got your drawing for the U-turn, that's also full service?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This one, yes, sir.
And there's not a stacking, if you were coming down Independence and you wanted to get over on the left side to make that U-turn, right now, presently, there's not a queuing lane or a stacking lane?
There is a left turn lane. You could kind of see it as up under this yellow.
Yes, sir.
There is a left turn lane there today to turn left into Crossroads. The reason it's hatched out in yellow is we essentially need to move that over more, move it further north so that we can handle the turnaround for the vehicle here. So that's what the widening is for there.
Okay. Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Anderson.
So this is, on the other, it's the total other side of the project over on Carolina Beach Road, Carolina Beach Road. I guess if you're taking, if you kind of got a plan, if you're wanting to go downtown or go towards town, and north on Carolina Beach, out of this entire project, this is the only way to do it, really, right? Because you come out of Carolina Beach Road, you got to take a right. There is no U-turn capability at the intersection, is there?
No, what we're planning here is that to also accommodate, we think that, working with staff and DOT, we think that most of the traffic would likely come out of the Independence Boulevard, since that's sort of the collector street, and we can pull the site plan up and show you that, why we think that. So less traffic would come out the Carolina Beach Road access point. However, we are still planning to accommodate a U-turn movement, but not here. We're looking at, and this is going to go off the page probably, but a U-turn movement further down Carolina Beach Road, kind of down past this driveway into Crossroads. So they would be able to turn around here. That's another one that we're looking at. However, this road is much wider. It's already a 5-lane roadway, and there's very little traffic. We think very little traffic will be making that U-turn movement, but we are looking at that as well. It's not as difficult to make as the one up here on Independence, which is why we've been focused a little more on it.
But that is part of your project to do that?
Yes, sir. We are going to be looking at that, yes, sir.
I missed something there, sir. Who are you talking about going down Carolina Beach Road to do a U-turn here? Where were they coming from?
They could, if a vehicle comes out, let's see, let me get the cursor back, there it is. If a vehicle comes out of the driveway on Carolina Beach Road and they wish to go back north, kind of back towards town, they could come out here, come through the intersection, and down in this area, make a U-turn, and come back up. Okay. Now, we think very few cars are going to do that, and you can imagine why. It's going to be a little harder to get out on the Carolina Beach Road, for one, and you have to travel a much longer distance to make the U-turn. Because if you come out Carolina Beach Road, first of all, it's going to be hard to get out on Carolina Beach Road. It's not going to be easy during heavy traffic times. Then you have to travel through the intersection down a good ways to be able to make a U-turn and then drive back up. So we think very few cars are going to do that, which is why we're focused on this one, on Independence Boulevard, and really designing that so it can accommodate the necessary traffic.
And your TIA bears this out?
Yes, sir, that's correct, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you're saying what they're going to do is come down Carolina, turn right on, that's Independence, and then go to the U-turn here and then come back and go back?
They could do that. They could come out here, go into the right turn lane and come down to this area and make a U-turn and come back. It'll be probably about the same distance, but we just want to, and what we need to do is make sure that we accommodate or allow for movements that could occur, even though it may be 1, 2, 3 cars, that would make that movement. We do want to make sure that we're not ignoring that. So that's why we're looking to make sure we have a U-turn on Carolina Beach Road as well. We think very few cars would ever do that, but we just want to make sure that we don't overlook that.
Mr. Spears.
And sir.
Yes, sir.
Are you the traffic guru out of this group?
Out of my crew, out of my team, yes, sir.
Yeah, because I mean, what you're stating is are you from Wilmington?
I am not, but I've spent a lot of time here. So.
Okay, so you've been here long enough to know that what you said is nearly impossible, right? You can't. What you're trying to predict to happen? Someone coming from where you have the cursor.
Yes, sir.
Coming down Carolina Beach Road, going past that, yeah, and making a U-turn to go back towards town.
Well, that's why, and I agree with you. I think that we can't overlook that possibility, but we don't think there's going to be very many cars at all who would do that. I agree with you.
Sir, and not to insult your intelligence, that's not even an intelligent thing to do. To even entertain that is not good.
Yeah.
Then
No, I
then
don't
you
disagree.
putting all of us on the hook for that. Because, I don't know, what's the grade for Carolina Beach Road right now? Do any of us know? It's bad though, right? Pretty bad. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
I agree.
yes, I don't think that's the solution. I mean, the lady brought up a very good point about just independence. But once you start trying to factor in U-turns on Carolina Beach Road, that's a whole different ballgame.
If I may, out of the planning board, this was discussed at planning board. And so RTIA was originally submitted back in April, and there was considerable discussion at the planning board back in July about, obviously, the Carolina Beach Road, right in, right out, as well as the Independence Boulevard, right in, right out. And during the planning board hearing, representative made clear that the Independence Boulevard access point was the primary access point for the development. Because of the collector street status, because of the fact that it did provide us with a means of, a full access point and full means of turning for all of the directions off of that road, that all of the traffic would be coming in and out of there as a primary means of ingress and egress. The Carolina Beach Road is a secondary right in, right out access and exit point. I agree with Councilman Spears, as a longtime resident of Wilmington, that it is not realistic for folks to come out of that project point at Carolina Beach Road and either cross 4 lanes of traffic to pull a U-turn at the light or go all the way down past the Crossroads Shopping Center to make some sort of U-turn movement down there. I think what Mr. Stevenson was trying to say was that it's possible, it's plausible that if someone chose to do that, they could do it, but we all know that's not going to happen. And this project is designed, and the improvements that are before you with this U-turn that we've been working with staff and WMPO daily since the planning board meeting to try to hammer out takes into account that no one is going to do that. The improvements that we are proposing and that what we've worked through with staff are the best evidence of the fact that Independence Boulevard is where folks are going to go to access the property primarily, but also to exit the property and go about their business in whatever direction they would like to go.
So let me, question, on the queuing, I think Mr. Ravenbark alluded to this, on that left-hand turn lane where you make the left turn, how far is that? How long is that? Is that queuing, how long is that queuing effect? Since I see what the issue is, coming out of 421 on Carolina Beach Road, heavy traffic, more than likely most people are going to come out on Independence, come out to the right out. Then if they want to go back north or they want to go down Independence, they're going to come to the U-turn. So I would imagine that there could be some stacking taking place there. How many vehicles can be stacked in that U-turn location?
I believe that U-turn, if I remember correctly, and I can look it up to be sure, is about 250 feet of stacking. Now, we might be able to, today, we might be able to squeeze a little more out of that with this widening that we're doing. But I believe there's about 250 feet there. And like I said earlier, one of the reasons that we like this location is that it's more of a service entrance for the shopping center. So it's a little less travel, fewer cars making that left-hand turn today in there.
What does that equate to in respect to cars? How many cars could you stack there if they were coming out of the
That's roughly anywhere from 10 to maybe 12 cars.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
So
Mr. Attenborough?
the only people that are, when you think about what I've heard you say, and Colin as well, the only people that are going to not be using that U-turn are somebody that wants to go down Independence to River Road and go north or south. Because if they want to get on Carolina Beach Road, by your own estimate, they're going to have to come out of either of those two right-in, right-outs and go to that U-turn, and then either go back to, if they're lucky, they can get in the left turn lane and go north toward Wilmington, or they can go south. So that U-turn is critical.
Yes, sir. And that's why staff, you know, and our team have spent a lot of time looking at this. And, you know, normally at this stage, we would not even have a drawing, you know, like this to really be able to look at. But they want to make sure, staff wants to make sure that it works well and we know where we're headed with it. And as Collins mentioned, we've worked a lot with staff and the team on this, MPO and city team.
I know that long U-turn drives are not out of the ordinary Market Street. They're going to be, you know, quarter mile, come out and got to go a mile this way to go back that way. Same thing, and I mean, it's just what's going on now, and I get that.
Yes, sir.
There probably should have been a light planned by Crossroads, because, I mean, Independence Boulevard is going to continue to be impactful.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Waddell?
I know this point was brought up earlier, but if you can just remind me, further west down Independence, you did consider a U-turn there that would just be, but then I guess you were duplicating the U-turns and the road narrows there. Was that remind me of the reasoning why we didn't decide to do like the tertiary option?
Yeah, there's a lot of issues here. There's power poles, but you can see kind of the power poles that are labeled here. But we look kind of right in this area here for potential U-turn, but there are a couple things with that. One is this area, my cursor, I apologize, cursor keeps sort of disappearing, but there it is. This entire area here is wet. We did look at that. That's all wet right in here. And you're right, the road does narrow, but we're starting to get sort of a U-turn in this location ends up being relatively close to this driveway, and it didn't fit quite as well there when we all looked at it as this location.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Anderson?
Brian, you mentioned Chambers. You did mention, I think, when you're at some point in your presentation that would be a likely spot for a light in a future redo of Independence. Is that just from the hip, or is that something that y'all? I mean, is there some thought behind that with MPO or engineering? Or?
In the discussions that I've been involved with engineering. As part of and they're here to correct me if I'm wrong, as part of that Independence widening, a light would be strongly considered for that location. Again, that hasn't been designed, but that's what I've been told is that would be the preferred location for a light.
Because I would presume at that point we probably don't have a full intersection at the one that you currently point out as being where all the action is, because that would be so close to the intersection that's no longer
right. That
four-way.
The light in that location would be too close to the intersection.
Right. So, okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you. Is the clerk, spinning here? I was going to ask if there's been any additional comments come over. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for the wishes of council in respect to item PH1.
I just want to state that based on this traffic stuff, it's not as clear as it was. It's a little murky now, you know, and I don't know, and this has been, This is the second time this come before us, right? Is this a continuation or the first time?
This is a continuation. It never came before us.
Oh, all right.
We did have a presentation early this morning at our agenda briefing meeting from Denise, from our
Yeah,
from
I
our-
was
from our
watching.
office, yeah, in respect to the roundabout or the traffic light, and just showing us how those things queue up over time. And hopefully, we can get that improvement done as quickly as possible. I know that that will help alleviate some of the issues that some of the folks are experiencing in River Lights. But I do believe that now that they've given me a better explanation as to where that U-turn goes, I think that makes a lot of sense. The one on Carolina Beach Road, which I know the state owns that road, that's an interesting intersection, but I don't see that. I personally do not see somebody going all the way down Carolina Beach Road and then making a U-turn going past Crossroads. I don't think that'll work.
Yeah,
I'm not an engineer per se, but based on what I've seen, I don't think that will work. But I do think that what they have proposed makes a lot of common sense in respect to everything y'all have looked at out there and everything y'all have, I think, tried to eliminate, and working with the MPO, which is the Metropolitan Planning Organization. I think sometimes when we say MPO, some people don't know what we're talking about, but it's a planning organization that we have for all of our roads throughout the city and the county and other counties, and working with our city staff in respect to traffic engineering. I'm sure you folks have exhausted a lot of time and energy trying to make certain that that is safe. The only thing that I will say is on the queuing effect, even though we've got, I think you can queue about 10 cars now, it'd be nice if we could get a couple of more in there, because that primarily will be the main entrance, especially on high traffic loads in the evening or in the morning, try to make that U-turn. Getting right in and right out is the only way. Mr. Eisenbarth.
Well, I think this plan will get you to where you need to be, but at some point, there's got to be some, I know one of the division engineers told me one time, a long time ago, we were trying to get a stoplight somewhere, and he said the mission of the DOT is to move traffic, not stop it, and that's truth. So I can foresee one day when, with all the traffic that's going to be generated, somewhere in the middle, there'd be a bulb with a roundabout, and then you have no queuing. And that just makes so much sense. We saw a wonderful animation this morning about the River Road and Independence Boulevard showing grade level intersection with stoplights versus a roundabout. And it's just, it's not even close which one is the best. So I think that would solve a great deal of problems on Independence, getting everybody in instead of having to go and queue up and waiting your turn to make that U-turn. You get in a roundabout and everybody's moving, everybody's happy. Thank you.
Mr. Anderson.
Brian, go back to, I'm still where I was at the beginning, just a little unclear on the certainty of a median or something to deter traffic physically from taking a left out of there. Is that something we need to specify, or is that something that's going to take place in TRC? And it's just a matter of determining what the material is.
I think you could specify it. I think I'm not the one. I don't think I'm qualified to say what the means would be appropriate for blocking that, whether it's paddles or medians. We do have the city's traffic engineer if they want to speak specifically of what options are available. I do know that they're going to actively try to prohibit that. But I just don't know what method they're going to use.
Okay. Well, I guess what I don't want to drive down through there one day and there's a wreck and some person has pulled out, turning left. Somebody's gotten hurt because we didn't make sure that was not possible. That they are going to use the U-turn. They're not going to just come straight out onto the road. So whatever I need, so we need to say, we need to add a condition that there is some kind of physical partition to prevent that. Is that a fair statement?
I think that the city's traffic engineer is hearing everything you're saying, and will make certain that that is included in their analysis and the requirement. But if you wanted to add a condition, you could certainly do so.
Well, if Mr. Barnett would accept that, that'd be great.
I will.
I agree with Neil.
I said I will. I will accept that.
Can we, is our traffic engineer, where is he?
I think that went over everybody's head. I said I agree with Neil.
Okay. It didn't go over my head, I
this
caught
is
it.
odd.
I'm just trying to find the traffic engineer. What Mr. Anderson and Neil, you may want to clarify a little bit more, is to make certain that we have the medium there so that people are not crossing back and forth. Is that correct, Neil?
I don't know what kind of space is out there. Obviously, I'd prefer it to be attractive.
Sure.
But safety over attractiveness. But, I think we know, surely you understand, you've been listening.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
So do
Call
you,
it a pork chop, some call it a.
Pork chop,
Yep.
chicane, teardrop.
A raised median in the center, something along those
so
lines.
you're good with that?
I like the median.
We would be. That would be the ultimate goal for Independence Boulevard, is for it to look like the portion that Phase 2, the north of Carolina Beach Road, median divided, planted, median divided. So that would be a forced maneuver in the future.
Very good.
And we're making that a condition, the median.
If you so choose.
That's,
We
We
have to
just
do
need to
something
make sure
different?
that the applicant accepts that condition.
Okay, applicant?
And if they don't, or if they need more time to think about that, then we could always continue to the next meeting.
well, if they don't, I'm voting no.
Yeah. All right, look at the applicant.
So obviously, we care about the safety of our residents. I mean, we don't want them to be trying to make that left-hand turn. It's designed, and we'll be working with city and WMPO in order to meet all the technical requirements. And I think what the engineer said is that they're going to require something there. I mean, we are more than happy to agree to a condition that, working with staff, there will be some sort of impediment there. I think what we would have some concern about would be just tying us to something without going through the full technical process to determine what's best. But we agree that there needs to be something there that prohibits that left-hand turn. And we could agree to that condition generally. It's just the specifics will come out in the wash during the technical review process.
Okay, Mr. Spears?
Well, I'm specifically asking for a median. For me, and I don't know about anybody else on council, but I'm asking for a median. And that'll be the condition, and you won't have to wonder about it.
So I think from a design standpoint, and again, I think we're all on the same page as far as what we want. I think that when we start talking about the technical design aspects of the U-turn improvement, we're starting to cross into an area that I don't think that either us as the applicant or the city's engineering and WMPO have worked all the way through. So tying us to that as a condition is concerning to us. I think that generally speaking, we are absolutely in agreement that something needs to be agreed upon between us and WMPO and staff. I mean, I'll defer, to the extent that there's anything that anyone else has to add, but to your specific request of a median, I think that's premature at this particular time because of the fact that we have some extensive technical review to come before we get there.
But you do understand that this is a conditional thing, right?
I do.
So if the conditions aren't met, then it's a no-go.
No, I fully understand what your request is, and I'm just responding to the fact that I believe that the specifics of your request are premature at this particular time due to the fact that the technical work has not been done, to be that specific. But a general
But no,
prohibition,
where we've come to is because of the plan that you've given us. So clearly, we think that you hadn't thought it all the way out. And so we're adding the condition to help you.
I understand.
It's up to you. I mean, if you agree, you can get a yes from me. And maybe getting a no from me doesn't really matter to you. It's okay.
No, I understand. I completely understand, Councilman Spears, what you're requesting. I'm just making a suggestion that I believe that there are, our traffic engineer has been working with WMPO and city staff to come up with this plan. And they've worked very hard to get there. And we understand and all agree that there are considerable technical review aspects in order to get this to the end line.
But you do know at the end of the day, it's us.
100%, and I
Okay.
will completely defer to my experts who know more about those technical aspects than I do. From a legal standpoint, I'm just concerned about
If
that.
I could say, I don't believe any of us up here have the engineering and expertise to design a road. And I think the word, maybe it's a matter of semantics if we move past our actually trying to design something in the middle of the street. Perhaps we could use the terminology of that you agree to an impediment, and then it's up to the engineers and the traffic guys to figure out exactly what that would be. I don't know whether, and really and truly nobody up here knows whether a cement median is the right thing or whether something else is. That's not our expertise. But I do think that we would all agree that there needs to be some sort of impediment so that we are not accident prone at that particular place. And to me, that would be what the friendly amendment would be to the motion. Is that correct, Madam Attorney?
It is whatever council wishes it to be, ma'am. Whatever will be accepted. I believe, was it Mr. Barnett that made the motion?
Yeah. Well,
Would you, Mr. Barnett, would you?
I think move of the motion, I'm hearing what Neil said and what Kevin said. I agree. I don't think that we know exactly what it is, but we do want some kind of impediment there. General, you used the term general.
So I think what Mr. Stevenson has said, that he's talked with city staff and WMPO, is that it would be a physical barrier, a physical barrier. We can agree to that.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think
that sounds great. If you're comfortable with that, surely we are. I would suggest and ask Mr. Barnett to accept a friendly amendment that there would be a condition that there would be a physical barrier at that location.
It would be an additional condition number 7.
Okay.
Okay.
That there be a physical barrier. And
So
that
that
the
would be-
wording would be worked out between the applicant and staff before it's signed off on.
I'll agree with that.
And you're
And
good.
the applicant agrees to that as well.
Mr.
Staff
Anderson?
agrees with that. You okay with that, Neil? Is that what you were asking?
No, but they don't need me, it doesn't look like. You're talking about a physical impediment that is are we talking about in the road? Or are we talking about a V that y'all are proposing? Because if it's the V, I'm out, baby. That doesn't help. I want it in the road. No, they can't go left if they just have a V.
Well-
If the V is the impediment. It's a pretty simple ask.
Well, we've talked about it. We understand what you're saying, and that's why we're saying a physical barrier. So it's not paint striping. It's going to be a way to restrict left turns in and left turns out of that driveway.
In the middle of the road or in your driveway?
Well, again, without getting too deep in the design, there are ways that you can do this without having a barrier in the road. Barriers in the road create other issues as well. So
Or what you're trying to do here is skirt it. You want to put one of those little concrete V's in there, and that's what you want, and you want to move on. I want something in the road, and if it doesn't say that, I'm out. So you can propose someone else's. I would take back my.
Your amendment. Okay.
Well, wait a minute.
Mr. Spears, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I want to say this, and I don't mean, Margaret can't speak for all of us. No, we're not traffic engineers, but everybody up here is older than me except for Luke. We've driven on these streets for a long time, and we understand what a median would do compared to all of this newer stuff. Because people are going to try different stuff. And again, Margaret will be gone soon, and we'll have to deal with what's going on. And you know, one or two things are going to happen. Traffic is bad in Wilmington. So if you have the position, if you have the authority to put something in place that potentially stops things from happening, then you should do that. And not try to circumvent what someone else is trying to do that is the advancement of public safety. And also to let the residents who travel that road understand that we hear them.
Well, I can assure you that your staff will be looking at this very closely at TRC, and we're going to have to come up with something that very clearly restricts the movements.
But we don't want to put it on staff. At least Neil and I don't. We don't want to put it on staff. We want to go ahead and put it out there. Because if it was up to staff at this point, it would already be a requirement, and it's not.
I just will say that I feel like as a traffic engineer, that condition of agreeing to a physical barrier to restrict left turn movements in and left turn movements out of that driveway, it doesn't pin you down for something too specific because it hasn't been designed yet, but it does and will and should be addressed at when this moves to TRC and more specific designs.
Okay, sir. You got it.
And we hear what you all are saying.
Mr. Waddell?
So I believe I seconded Councilmember Barnett's original motion, but I'm happy to accept the amended motion, including the condition number 7, to include a physical barrier. I don't know, does that require an actual second motion, or am I accepting his revisions? All right, well, I accept those. I mean, we have a TRC for a reason. I think they do a phenomenal job.
If Mr. Barnett has accepted that there be a physical barrier, that the condition will be determined between staff and the applicant, and then you're saying that you still will second that motion?
Correct.
Yes,
Then
so I do make that motion, number 7, that we include a physical barrier, and then staff and the applicants will work out what that looks like.
Yes, sir. Now you need to read the consistency statement.
Well,
Margaret, go ahead.
I still have, now I have another concern. I thought you're talking about a physical barrier in the street. If you're just talking about that little cement V that we see all over town for right in, right out, I don't think that's going to be sufficient. But I'm not an engineer or traffic engineer. As far as I know, neither is anybody else up here.
I'm definitely not. If I may, Madam Pro Tem, I don't think we're talking about that pork chop, and I don't think we're talking about a median. I think what we're talking about is exactly what we said, a physical barrier, and that would be determined by staff and the applicant.
Where? At the driveway or in the street?
So that I can't answer. I think that that's part of the design element. I mean, we know we can't make a left turn from that particular area, and the amendment that's being proposed is that in order to block the residents that are leaving our particular project from going left, a physical barrier will be constructed that keeps them from doing so. That barrier will be determined upon agreement between the applicant, WMPO, and city's engineering staff. And we will not be able to move forward with our project until such time as that agreement has been reached.
Okay. All right. Mr. Barnett has made the motion. We have second by Mr. Waddell. Mr. Barnett, will you read a consistent statement for the record, please, sir?
I move to approve the proposed amendment to assign zoning to property located at 3818 Carolina Beach Road and 3930 Independence Boulevard from R15 Moderate Density Single Dwelling District to MD 17 CD High Density Multi-Dwelling Residential Conditional District for a 257-unit residential development, and finding to be consistent with the relevant policies in the comprehensive plan based on the application material and the information provided at the public hearing and in the staff report, and the final approval of the rezoning request is reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. The proposed rezoning would allow for a quality infill development that is compatible with the surrounding area, provides for an increase in residential density near services and along an identified transit route, and preserves a significant amount of natural open space.
All right. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes 5-2. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilman Ravenbart, second by Mayor Pro Tem Haynes. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Fails for lack of a unanimous, so we'll hear this at our second meeting, and there will be no public hearing at that particular item. That brings us to our next item of business, which is item PH2, which is the ordinance amending the official zoning maps of the city to rezone property containing 0.69 of an acre of land located at 111 and 113 Avondale Avenue from R10 Medium Density Single Dwelling District to R5 CD Medium Density Mixed Residential Conditional District for a 4-lot residential subdivision for a total of 4 units. And I will also ask council that I must recuse myself from this particular vote since I have a relationship with the applicants. Yes.
So we have a motion by Mr. Barnett, a second by Mr. Waddell to allow the mayor to be recused from this particular item.
All in favor of that vote?
Oh, sorry, we all need to vote. Everybody in favor of that, please signify by saying aye. Aye. That passes unanimously. Thank you. You are now recused, sir. And the mayor has read the item, public hearing number 2, and at this time I'll recognize our city manager, Mr. Caudle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Abby Bonavac, our associate planner, will overview this item for us.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. This is public hearing item number 2, conditional rezoning of 111 and 113th Avondale Avenue, CD 4-823. The site is located north of the intersection of Oleander Drive and Avondale Avenue and contains approximately 0.69 acres and is currently occupied by 2 single-family dwelling units. This map shows the general vicinity surrounding the request and photos of the existing site conditions. These are photos of the existing site and conditions. And these are photos of the adjacent properties and land uses. The site is currently zoned R10. The site is bordered by R10 to the north, south, east, and northwest. The site is bordered by R5CD to the west. Single-family residential is surrounding the site as the land use. The applicant proposes to rezone the subject site from R10 Medium Density Single Dwelling District to R5CD Medium Density Mixed Residential Conditional District for a 4-lot residential subdivision for a total of 4 units. 2 existing single-family dwelling units and 2 proposed single-family dwelling units. The 2 existing single-family dwelling units are currently located on 1 lot, and the rezoning and subdivision proposed would actually remove a non-conforming situation and bring the lot into compliance with the Land Development Code. This is a sample photograph of the style of architecture being proposed for the structure on site. The site is located within the areas of opportunity, live, work, innovation. The comprehensive plan supports quality design and site planning to be promoted so that new development, infill, and redevelopment is implemented with minimal adverse impacts on the desired character of the existing built environment. The proposal increases the housing supply while protecting the desired neighborhood character through infill development. Staff believes that the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with the recommendations of the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan and that the request is reasonable and in the public's interest. Staff recommends conditional approval with the conditions listed in the case summary be applied. Planning Commission voted unanimously for approval at the August 2nd meeting. This concludes staff's presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is here as well.
Are there any questions for staff? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you so much.
At this time, I'll recognize the applicant.
Thank you. Good evening. My name's Cindy Wolf. I appreciate Abby's thorough synopsis of the project. Avondale was a community way back when that was actually all over 225-foot wide lots. Of course, over the years, there was combinations made of 2 lots, 3 lots, sometimes 4 lots, as far as what this community has become. It is, generally speaking, a one-story home community. But over the years, there have been a lot of R5 rezonings around the community, both to make the lots consistent and to just infill where it seems sensible. What we've got now are the 2 existing houses, and as Abby pointed out, there was some type of snafu, so as to a certain extent, this is somewhat of a housekeeping process also. There are 2 primary residences on a single lot. So back in 2017, I don't know what exactly occurred. They're addressed, they're there, but they shouldn't both be on the same lot. So this would remedy that situation, and it would also allow the lot north of it to be subdivided into 2 50-foot wide lots, allowing the construction of 2 new homes. This not only is our architectural, but the 2 homes that are existing are these 2 homes. They are single story. They have the parking in the front, but this is the architecture. The only comments I got, or primarily in the neighborhood when we did have our meeting, was that the people behind these lots did not want 2-story structures. So as far as the neighborhood character, the neighborhood fabric, what we're proposing would duplicate what is already there and consistent with most of the rest of the neighborhood. I absolutely don't need to tell everyone what we talk about every meeting these days is the need for housing and affordable housing, and allowing additional density is one of those methods of providing more affordable housing. So we believe certainly that this is consistent, as staff has pointed out. We hope you will agree with the Planning Commission's unanimous recommendation that this infill would be implemented with minimal inverse impacts to the character of the neighborhood. Infill should be developed in a manner with that neighborhood character, and location-efficient housing should be promoted and encouraged for sustainability of our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Wolf?
Yeah, quick statement.
Mr.
So
Barnett?
the 2 new houses will look like the 2
The
houses?
same thing. The only thing we have done, and you can see on my exhibit, the tree symbols shown, there are 4 of them, are all existing trees that we're working around, so we're not taking out any trees on either site, but the only one of the lots has the trees. But we are placing the homes a little further back. That was one of the comments that came out of the neighborhood meeting, was that cars were awfully close when their driveways weren't as deep as possible. And so we've tried to remedy all the comments that we heard. And the other thing that is one of the conditions is we're not asking for the ability for accessory dwellings either. So
Okay.
2 new homes, 2 existing homes to remain and become conforming.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, concerns? Great, thank you.
Very much.
At this time, I'll open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone that would like to come forward and speak either in favor of or opposed to this proposal. The public hearing is now open, if anyone would like to come forward. Seeing none, I will ask the clerk if she has received anything.
Yes, ma'am, Mayor Pro Tem. We received one from a Jamie Price of 5210 Park Avenue. I am against rezoning this property. I live around the block from it. Avondale suffers from drug trade, domestic violence, and crime. Multiple unit dwellings will not help this situation. Single-family dwellings may. Thank you.
And that's it. Great. The public hearing is still open if anyone wishes to come forward, either for or against. We're happy to hear you. Any questions from council? If not, I will close the public hearing and ask for the wishes of council. We have a motion by Mr. Waddell and a second by Mr. Barnett.
I move to approve the proposed amendment to assign zoning to property located at 111 and 113 Avondale Avenue from R10 Medium Density Single Dwelling District to R5 CD Medium Density Mixed Residential Conditional District for a 4-lot residential subdivision, and find it to be consistent with the relevant policies in the comprehensive plan based on the application materials and the information provided in the public hearing and in the staff report, and to find approval of the rezoning request is reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. The proposed rezoning would allow for residential infill that is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood.
If we're ready to vote, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Mr. Anderson makes a motion, and second by Mr. Waddell. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed? And that also passes unanimously. Thank you.
That brings us to our next item of business, which is item PH3, which is an ordinance amending the official zoning maps of the city to rezone property containing 3.11 acres of land located at 610, 614, 618, and 622 South Kerr Avenue from R10 Medium Density Single Dwelling District to MD17 CD High Density Multi-Dwelling Residential Conditional District for a residential development consisting of 48 two-bedroom multi-dwelling units and 1 single-family residential unit. This time, I'd like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Caudle. Mr. Caudle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Senior Planner Nicole Smith will overview this item for us.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. The proposal before you this evening includes 4 parcels.
Nicole, excuse me, can you turn up the volume just a little bit? Thank you. Thank you, Nicole.
Is that better? Yes, much better. The proposal before you this evening includes 4 parcels containing approximately 3.11 acres and is located west of South Kerr Avenue and north of Randall Parkway. This map provides context and highlights the site location. To the right of your slide are images of the subject site's existing conditions. This slide illustrates the existing conditions from adjacent roadways. To the right of the slide are images looking north and south on South Kerr Avenue. To the left of the slide is a view of the site from Hoggard Drive, as well as the existing transit stop located at Hoggard and Varsity. This slide illustrates the existing development pattern within the vicinity. Multifamily developments are located west, north, and east of the site. Detached single-family dwellings are located north and south of the site along South Kerr Avenue frontage. This area of the city is in transition, as witnessed by the variety of zoning and land uses in the vicinity. The request before you this evening is to rezone the subject site from R10 Medium Density Single Dwelling District to MD17 Conditional District, High Density Multiple Dwelling Residential Conditional District for a 49-unit residential development. The project includes 2 3-story buildings containing 24 units each and 1 1-story single dwelling home. A full access driveway is proposed off of South Kerr Avenue. The applicant is preserving 21.3% of the property to open space, exceeding the required 20% of the MD17 zoning district. The elevations provided by the applicant are shown on your screen. The eastern elevation on the right is the anticipated visibility from South Kerr Avenue. The southern and northern elevations are also included on the left side of your screen. The comprehensive plan identifies this site as within an employment academic center and live-work innovation zone area of opportunity, and along a major corridor and regional parkway. Areas well suited for infill development should increase densities with infill development, including mid-rise buildings, parking decks, and other urban solutions. The proposed rezoning would allow context-sensitive infill development that is compatible with the existing neighborhood. Based on the information contained in the case summary, as well as the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan, staff believes the request is reasonable and in the public interest, and recommends conditional approval with the conditions outlined in the case summary. The Planning Commission held a legislative hearing regarding this matter on August 2nd. No public comments were received at that hearing or via the online platform in advance of the meeting. After discussion, the Commission voted unanimously in favor of recommending conditional approval with the conditions outlined in the case summary. That concludes staff's presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. The applicant is also available with a presentation.
Are there any questions? Okay. Thank you. This time to recognize the applicant.
Thank you. Again, for the record, my name's Cindy Wolf, and I've been working with the owner of this property extensively over the past year. As Nicole pointed out, we are talking about those 4 lots that are 1 lot up from Hoggard Drive, and I want to just point out that we have tried everything in our power to try to include that lot that is along Hoggard in this proposal, but unfortunately to no avail. That being said, we're looking towards the future because hopefully at some point in time, this would have some type of access to Hoggard Drive at Varsity. I know there has been conversation over the years extensively also about Hoggard Drive being extended over to College Road. But again, there's nothing in the works right now. So what we're talking about are these 4 particular lots. Nicole pointed out there is a lot of transition around this area, and the MD-17 is consistent from Market Street down Carr Avenue to these areas where they start into the commercial section that is along Wilshire. This is our site plan. There are 5 actually existing buildings on the site currently. 4 of those are already dedicated to be rehabbed, reused, and relocated in other lots on the city. So we think that that's a positive spin on this. The existing house that's in the lower right-hand corner was renovated fairly recently. So rather than tear that one down, we propose to continue using it as a rental space that would still be part of this community, but maintaining that home. Access onto Carr Avenue, but in hopes that someday there would be the possibility of connection over to Hoggard, we have stubbed the back parking lot over to that property line. This particular plan, it was important to me as we were working on it. It's sort of hard to see, but this area between the pool and the existing house is a really nice grove of existing significant trees, and that was a big part of working this plan around that as an open space. We've got the transit stop across the street. Obviously, this is in an area that is purely accessible to lots of services, lots of opportunities, and the college for that matter. So just a little bit more decorative view of the site plan. And again, the architecture. His architect took a lot of time with these and meeting the criteria now of the multi-dwelling districts as far as addressing all streets, keeping parking off of the street facades, and just creating an attractive architecture. With that, we believe this is consistent, reasonable, and in the public interest because the proposed plan does provide for a compact pattern of development that reinforces the efficient provision of public services and utilities. The plan is context-sensitive infill that's compatible with the neighborhood and the other multifamily developments around it, and location-efficient housing that has access to public transportation and alternative means of traverse like the bike lanes and the trails that are getting closer to these areas all the time is encouraged for sustainability and adaptability of our community. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Anderson?
Cindy, the facade that you'll see from the road is which one?
That is the lower one on this scene. So there are windows, changes in materials, fenestration, and this is a very unusual as far as the typical three-story walk-up. These are three-story buildings, but it's laid out differently than what we commonly see with the 3 points. You go up the middle, you can go right or left, and you just go up the stairs. There is a mail kiosk at the end for each of the buildings, and that's where the lady in red is standing.
These are basically built for college kids?
No, I mean, any apartments certainly are available to whomever is able to rent them. These are all two-bedroom units, which is not typically as marketable to the college students, but no, that is not the marketing demographic that they intend for.
Okay. And you said they're three-story walk-ups, so no
They are
elevator?
three-story walk-ups. There are no elevators, but it's just a different type of layout than we see so typically around most of the three-story walk-ups with 24 units in them.
Mm-hmm.
It's longer and leaner. It just has 4 different sides.
Okay.
Ms. Spears?
Now, Cindy, in the last project, you mentioned affordability. You did not mention affordability with this project.
This is a market rate project. It has amenities. It's intended to be a little bit more secure, which safety has become a real concern for everyone.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Waddell?
Just curiosity more than anything, the single-family residence, that's unique. Never seen one of those. Will it be a part of the overall project, or?
We at first intended it to maybe be like a clubhouse or something like that, but that with an existing building is inherent to a lot of problems and costs and things because of
So there's an existing structure.
accessibility. So it's an existing structure. It is already rented, but it's been recently renovated. So they've already put some money into it. So rather than tear it down, this works very well because you still can have single family in the multi-dwelling district as long as it's on its own lot. And we've shown that on the more detailed plans.
That's neat. All right, thank you.
Mr. Anderson?
Because in our packet, it still has clubhouse on it, so that,
Then it had not been updated.
okay. So, but you're taking out the parking for that house, right?
That's correct. The parking for this residence will have to be internal to the plan.
And the number of parking spaces did not change from the clubhouse plan, right?
No, it did not.
You have enough parking?
Yes, there are 48
106.
units, which is 96 parking spaces by requirement, and I believe we have 105,
How many bedrooms is the single-family
all
house?
2 bedrooms, so 96 bedrooms, 96 parking spaces required.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. This time I open up the public hearing and ask if anybody in the public wishes to speak on item PH3. Please come forward, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm against this for several reasons. One reason is the fact that it seems there are a lot of trees in this lot. There's only, 10% tree cover left in the city. And to me, that's an environmental issue. We need trees to breathe, for clean air and so forth. So why tear down these trees to build some more apartments. Furthermore, apartments that aren't necessarily for the working class or the working poor. That's the issue that I have. That a lot of new construction, residential and so forth, is more so for out-of-towners, people of substance and means, and not for the working class and working poor in this city, the indigenous people of this city. So that's an issue I have with this particular plan, if you will, and I think that members of this council should focus on all new construction being affordable in nature for the working class and the working poor, because that's the most vulnerable residents of this city. So therefore, look out for the residents, the original inhabitants, if you will, of the city, instead of a bunch of out-of-towners coming to enjoy the very beautiful city of Wilmington, the beach, the river, and so forth, the nightlife. Let's concentrate more on the working class and the working poor. There's also several homeless people in this city. Perhaps a program should be instituted for them as well, because they're living in tents, and where they can't live, they're being ran away. Trees are being torn down so they can be like an avenue of sight. So if they try to camp, they'll probably be arrested. Ladies and gentlemen, this has to cease. Let's look out for the working class, the working poor, and the homeless in the city. And please, let's stop kowtowing to the filthy rich in this town. And I yield the floor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Can I ask your name and where you live? Yeah, thank you.
My name is Kahan, and I live on the east side of town.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Madam Clerk, have you received any additional commentary? Okay. Any further questions from council? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for the wishes of council in respect to the ordinance.
I got one question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kahan brought up a point, and I just want to either agree or disagree with the 10% tree canopy statement that he made. I think that is false, but I want to put it out there for the public.
I can address it because I have a lot of interaction with the tree commission since we've been out with the tree initiative. We're at about 42% coverage. We were at about 45. We lost a lot during the hurricane, but we're at about 42 when we had the assessment done several years ago. I think, Tom, you were in charge of that or had made that presentation to us. So it was significant, but we have lost a lot of trees due to hurricanes and development, but we're about 42% right now. And we try to do everything in our power to try to save trees, but in respect to areas where a building has to be built or a parking lot has to be built, those trees would have to be removed, except if there are significant trees where we try to make the developer or whoever's developing their property adhere to protecting those trees as much as possible. Okay. Mr. Anderson, are you going to read a consistency statement for the record?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion
Waiting
by
for all the
Councilmember
conversation.
Anderson and second by Councilmember Barnett. Yes, sir.
I move to approve the proposed amendment to assign zoning to property located at 610, 614, 618, and 622 South Carr Avenue from R10 Medium Density Single Dwelling District to MD 17 CD High Density Multiple Dwelling Residential Conditional District for a multiple dwelling residential development, and find it to be consistent with the relevant policies in the comprehensive plan based on the application materials and the information provided at the public hearing and in the staff report, and to find approval of the rezoning request is reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. The proposed rezoning would allow for compatible residential infill that is consistent with the surrounding area.
Okay. Ready to vote? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilman Waddell, second by Mayor Pro Tem Haynes. Discussion, all in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to our next item of business, which is item PH4, which is an ordinance for the closure of a portion of Willard Street, a 66-foot wide unimproved right-of-way located west of South Front Street to its terminus with a total length of approximately 330 feet, consisting of plus or minus 0.51 acres of land. At this time, I'd like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Caudle. Mr. Caudle.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Brian Chambers, our Assistant Planning Director, will overview this item for us.
Good evening again. The request is to close a portion of the Willard Street right-of-way located west of South Front Street. This right-of-way is currently unimproved. This map shows the right-of-way in the context of the surrounding area, and there's also several photos of the property. The site is currently zoned IND General Industry and R5 Medium Density Mixed Residential District. If the closure is approved, the request will add additional lot area to 4 adjacent parcels. The right-of-way terminates at an active railroad right-of-way adjacent to the state port, so there's no potential to extend Willard Street to the west. The requested closure would allow this area to be included in the future development of the adjacent sites. Staff believes this request would not have an adverse impact on our road network. Staff believes the request is reasonable in the public interest and is recommending approval. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of this as well. I will point out the staff is the applicant, so any questions you have, I'm happy to answer.
Okay. Any further questions? Thank you, sir. I'm going to open up the public hearing and ask for the wishes of the public if they want to come forward and speak on this particular item. Seeing none, are there any, Madam Clerk, have you received any additional commentary? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for the wishes of council in respect to the closure. We have a motion approved by Councilmember Spears, seconded by Councilmember Anderson. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? That item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilman Rivenbark, second by Mayor Pro Tem Haynes. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to our next item of business, which is item PH5, which is an ordinance for the closure of a portion of Martin Street, a 66-foot wide unimproved right-of-way located west of South Front Street to its terminus with a total length of approximately 320 feet, consisting of plus or minus 0.47 acres of land. And again, I'll recognize our city manager, Mr. Caudle. Mr. Caudle.
And again, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chambers will overview this item for us.
This is going to be eerily similar to the one you just heard. This is generally in the same area, except this will be the eastern portion of Martin Street. Again, this one is unimproved as well. There's another context map and some photos of the subject property, Martin Street. This site is zoned general industry. The adjacent properties are also zoned for general industry. This would add lot area to 2 adjacent lots. The right-of-way terminates again also at a railroad right-of-way adjacent to the port, so there's no potential for this right-of-way to be, the Martin Street right-of-way to be extended to the west. And again, this closure would allow the site to be included in the future redevelopment of adjacent properties. Staff believes the request will not have an adverse impact on the road network, and the request is reasonable in the public interest and recommends approval. And the Planning Commission also voted unanimously to recommend approval of this one. Staff is not the applicant on this. I wasn't able to notice with the applicants here on this one tonight. When I looked out in the crowd, he might be here or not. If he's not, I apologize for that, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Any questions for Brian? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is the applicant in the audience?
Good evening, Council. Thank you for letting me be up here. I do own the property at 1402 South Front Street and have owned that welding and fabrication company located there for 7 years, rented it for a few years prior to buying the property. And with all businesses, we have growing pains, so I started this application back in April to gained that little bit of area right there where we actually do park our trucks. We park county school buses when we repair seats and so forth for them. City trash trucks, equipment trailers come in all the time, and we've been using that 66 feet with our neighbor to the north, Buckeye Terminal. We've worked that out where we've fenced it in and have been maintaining it and keeping it looking nice and secure for our equipment vehicles. So hopefully we can use that to grow a little bit in the future.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm going to open up the public hearing and ask if anyone in the public wishes to speak on this particular item. Seeing none, are there any additional comments that you've received, Madam Clerk? Okay, very good. I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for the wishes of council. We have a motion to approve by Councilman Rivenbark, second by Councilman Waddell. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? The item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Haynes, second by Councilman Waddell. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to our next item of business, which is our ordinances, which is an ordinance expanding the residential parking program and adding new parking time limits on the 300 block of South Front Street. At this time, I'd like to recognize City Manager, Mr. Cottle. Mr. Cottle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In his inaugural appearance before council, Assistant Parking Manager Jeff Inman will present this item for us.
Welcome, Jeff, to your inaugural.
First time here. Looking
Glad
forward
to have you, sir.
Looking forward to speaking with y'all. Thank you, Mr. Cottle. Mr. Mayor, members of council, tonight I will be discussing a proposed traffic schedule change to 300 South Front Street. Before we get into the crux of my discussion, I want to give you a little history of the residential background information. In 1996, the historical district implemented a 11P to 3A residential permit-only restriction. The goal of this restriction was to help curb the restaurant and bar crowds that were parking in the residential area. In 2003, there was another addition to the program. It was a daytime program with a 9 a.m. to 6:30 addendum for residential parking only south of the CBD. This restriction was in conjunction with the already in place evening restrictions. There was 9 blocks that initially rolled into that program. The main point of this discussion is talking about 300 South Front Street. 300 South Front Street is one of the only blocks still left in the residential program that's only 11P to 3A. What I mean by that is, during the day, anybody can park on that block up until 11P. We'll talk about that here in a second. There were further addendums added in 2020, which added a Sunday enforcement requirement to the residential program, and it ended up helping to close the gap on some of the blocks in the residential program. This map graphic helps illustrate a little bit more cleaner what I'm trying to express. This is current day 2023 in downtown Wilmington. What I kind of want you to focus on with this map is the green blocks. The green blocks are the current blocks that are only 11P to 3A residential. We can come back to this graphic here later if needed, but for the purpose of this conversation, 300 South Front Street is currently 11P to 3A only. Sorry, residential only. This graphic, this slide here talks about how to enroll into the program? How does a block expand their criteria? The citizens of that street, they have to petition the city. Once they petition the city, they are requesting an occupancy survey of their block. They need to have a 70% occupancy litmus test to start off, to even start the conversation. And then 25% of that 70 needs to be out-of-area parkers. What that means is parkers who are not residents of that street. Once they meet that litmus test, we mail them a ballot. We need 2/3 requirement of those residents to proceed. At that point, we take it to DPAC, the Downtown Parking Advisory Committee. They vote on it, and then we get to a night like tonight, where I'm speaking for the first time. This slide here is addressing what 300 South Front Street is trying to do. They want to go Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 a.m. I want to reiterate that currently on that street, the restriction is 11 p to 3A residential only. What that means is all day, anybody can park on that street. I have to tell you that I am honored to speak on their behalf tonight. They had a really true grassroots moment with getting to this night. The residents are experiencing speeding challenges on that street. The residents, between emails and calls to the city, have talked about not being able to back out of their driveways safely. They're talking about if they go to the grocery store and come back, they're having to park 2 and 3 blocks over with all these groceries to try to get back to their residences. The things that I'm talking about are in conjunction with City Code Section 593, which is in alignment with the purposes of the residential program. We're trying to help safety. We are trying to reduce hazardous conditions. We're trying to separate the commercial parking from the residential parking. I want to give you a little bit of a visual of the street here. The first 2 slides that you're looking at, I'm calling before and after. The slide on the far left is 300 South Front before they striped. They just recently striped in the second picture right before Hurricane Idalia and Labor Day. Part of the striping that traffic engineering implemented was to help pedestrian safety. I didn't get a picture of that here, but they cleaned up the pedestrian crosswalk. They helped line up closer to where the curb cuts are on the street, and they help reduce the sight lines that the residents are talking about. The third slide here on the right is a radar trailer that WPD implemented on Front and Ann Street. Part of the purpose of the radar trailer was to help deter the speeding coming down Front Street. .300 South Front, they have fought a really good fight, and the fight started in November of 2022. When they initially reached out to us, they wanted a 9 a.m. to 3 a.m. Monday through Sunday, all of the residents, by the way, excuse me, it's 12 residents on that block. They met the 2/3 requirement with the petition. The initial survey, though, fell short. I think they were right at like 68%, but they fell short of the initial occupancy requirement that the city requires. Per city policy, we survey these blocks November and May to reassess their petitions. So we held on to their petition, and we resurveyed them in May of 2023. At that point, they met the litmus tests needed to have an expansion to the program. They had 87% occupancy on that block, and of that 87%, 70 were out-of-area vehicles, meaning that non-residents. Once we got that assessment, we sent out a ballot to see what their thoughts were, and the residents on that street wanted to move forward. The final count on that was 9 yeses, 1 no, and 2 no responses. We then took the vote to DPAC in August. Mr. Bruce Kemp, who I hope is listening tonight, he came to the DPAC meeting and was very vocal with his concerns about the parking conditions. And DPAC decided to approve the motion. And I'm here tonight speaking for the first time, trying to see your thoughts, City Council.
It's been thoroughly evaluated. Mrs. Spears?
Sir, you've done a great job.
Thank you, sir.
But next time, don't try to memorize the whole presentation. We're ready to go home, man. Read off the script and let's go.
Understood. Understood, Councilman Spears. Understood.
Okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Ravenbark.
They want, yes, sir. I understand, yeah. I'm not trying to laugh, I just, yes, sir, I agree with your sentiments. Part of the 9 a.m. to 3 a.m. Requirement is our parking contractor, our staff, is only here till 3. So that's the rationale behind the 3 a.m. Time frame.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you. I think we got it. I think we have a motion here to approve by Councilmember Anderson. We have a second to that by Mayor Pro Tem Haynes. Any further discussions or comments? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? The item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilmember Barnett, second by Councilmember Anderson. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? The item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to our resolutions. Item R1 is a resolution authorizing the filing of condemnation actions for acquisition of right-of-way and easements for the Pine Grove North Intersection Improvement Project. This time I'd like to recognize City Manager, Mr. Caudill. Mr. Caudill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Deputy City Attorney Sean Evans will overview this item for us.
Thank you, Mr. Caudill. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I'll try to keep this very brief. The reason we need to file on these parcels, parcel 2 and 3 are under common ownership. They're at the current intersection of Pine Grove and Oleander. It's where the DeBrules, I call it an antique store, may be improper label, so I apologize for that, but that's the location there. They retain counsel. We've been unable to reach an agreement at this point, but I'm hopeful that we can in the future. The other parcel is parcel 38, and there is a title issue there, so that You've heard us use the term friendly condemnation before. That just needs to go to court so that the ownership interest can be determined. Unfortunately, that'll have to go to court for that to be resolved. I'm happy to answer any questions. These, we're moving forward with these early because they're needed for utility relocation. The other 11 utility relocation parcels have been resolved. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions for Sean? Yes, sir, Ms. Reinbart?
The parcel at Macmillan and Pine Grove.
Yes, sir.
Where the resale shop is that her entire property or just a portion of it?
It's not a total take. It's just
Pardon?
a portion. It's not a total take. It's just a small area of right-of-way and a utility easement, not a total take.
Does it take part of the alley?
No, sir. I don't believe so. The alley's publicly owned and won't be interfered with.
And you're getting ready to do the next one down on Lonely Fields Drive?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is that going to be a total taken or is that a portion?
We have already done all the total takes on this project. Everything else is just a strip along Oleander.
Okay. This was the one that has title issues?
No, sir. That one is on,
You only got two tonight, right?
That's correct.
Lonely Fields and Pine Grove is the second one?
Correct.
And that's the one that has title issues?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Sean. What are the wishes of council in respect to the resolution? We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Barnett, second by Councilmember Rivenbark. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. That brings us to our last item, which is item R2, which is resolution authorizing the sealed bid sale of 115 North 3rd Street. At this time, I'd like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Caudle. Mr. Caudle?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Aubrey Parsley, our Economic Development Director, will overview this item for us.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Back in February of this year, council voted to surplus a set of properties anticipating the acquisition of the new city campus at 929 North Front Street. These properties, 115 North 3rd Street and the adjacent parcel 210 Chestnut Street, were a part of that February resolution. Since the beginning stages of planning that acquisition, of this acquisition, city staff vocalized a strategy to dispose of properties which were to be vacated as a part of the overall consolidation process for the city. The idea being to take the proceeds of these sales and to buy down debt related to the purchase. This will be the first set of properties offered for sale. A little bit about the property. It's located in the heart of our CBD. It consists of about 50,000 gross square feet of structure and approximately 46,000 rentable square feet. The property collectively is comprised of about 9/10 of an acre. The property sits at a very exciting section of our downtown that is certainly on the frontier of change. First, amenities to the south, the property is adjacent to an almost 400-space public parking deck, which is managed by the city. To the north sits Project Grace, which calls for the redevelopment of almost the entire city block there. To the northeast of the property, we have 305 Chestnut Street, another city property that will soon be offered for sale. There is an adjacent parcel to the north of 305 Chestnut Street, which is available for, or has been privately listed for sale as well. Then to the east is Thalian Hall, where we sit today, an arts, culture, and entertainment center in our downtown. Again, all in all, a very exciting area of our downtown, and we certainly hope that it helps generate significant interest in this sealed bid sale. Moving on to schedule. Should council approve this resolution tonight, the bid package would be posted before close of business tomorrow. All the information needed to participate in the sealed bid sale will be available on this website, www.wilmingtonnc.gov/bids. The city would offer walkthroughs in the weeks to follow. Interested parties would need to reach out to staff to schedule a walkthrough. We do not want anyone going in the building and disturbing occupants in the building. So if any parties listening to this presentation are interested, do please reach out to staff to schedule that walkthrough. The city will only take questions in writing. All questions will be gathered and answers will be posted online at the same time, so all interested parties have the same information available to them at the same time. Bids will be due 2 months from the posting of the bid package on November 6th. City staff will open, read, and record bids in public on that day, November 6th. Staff would then present an agenda item to council on November 21st to accept the highest bid or reject all bids. A few process notes before I close. Again, all the information needed about the property and to participate in the sealed bid process will be available online at this website you see on the screen, wilmingtonnc.gov/bids. A 5% money order or certified check must accompany a bid to be eligible. The 5% deposit would only be deposited by the city should council accept the bid. All conditions of the purchase will be laid out in the bid package as Exhibit A. That is a purchase and sale agreement. The property will convey as is, where is, and the city will not consider leaseback agreements as a part of this sale. Again, only the terms and conditions outlined in the bid package will be accepted. Again, we ask all interested parties not to disturb tenants or other occupants in the building. Reach out to staff to schedule walkthroughs. And with that, that concludes my presentation. Happy to address any questions council may have.
Aubrey, how are you or have you contacted any of the people, real estate related in commercial real estate, residential real estate, governmental affairs, anybody that can get this word out? Have you done that?
Yes, sir. I've made several presentations on the topic to help get the word out. We've had interested parties reach out to the city
Thank
over
you.
time to help disseminate
And
the word.
you'll keep a running record of everybody that has inquired about it, because from time to time, we go through these processes and somebody says, well, I didn't see it or I didn't hear about it. I like just to make certain that we have it on record as to who you contacted to make sure that it's out there.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Will do.
thank you.
In order to get a seal, but to get the package, do they have to contact you to get a package, or somebody wants to see what we got?
No, sir. They can find everything they need on the website, but to submit the bid, they will need to either deliver it via mail or in person. All those instructions will be laid out in the bid package available on the website.
And the people from Wilmington downtown, I guess, they also have a copy, are aware of this?
Yes, our purchasing division will have a copy of this bid package.
Scott Satterfield and that crew out there, Wilmington Business Development too?
We always leverage our partners to help
Thank you.
disseminate the word. Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
it, thank you. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion approved by Mayor Pro Tem Haynes, second by Councilmember Anderson. Discussion, all in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? The item passes unanimously. This concludes the regular agenda. Are there any items to be brought forward by our city attorney? City manager?
No, sir.
Madam Clerk? Mr. Waddell? Mr. Barnett?
Yes, just a couple quick announcements. The Cape Fear Housing Coalition, sponsored by the Cape Fear Habitat for Humanity, is sponsoring a community homeowner education series and wills clinic. And there'll be activities throughout the month of September. And that'll be on, I think it'll be on our city website as well. But it's something really interesting like aging in place, Medicaid, the importance of having a will, property and heir property issues, things like that. Also, this Saturday, there will be a program at Warner Temple about heir property, where people are losing their properties and how you can make sure that you keep your properties and how to start wills. And that's from 10 to 1 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ravenbart? Mr. Anderson? Ms. Spears? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Mayor, I have some interesting news to convey. Many people in our community are very much aware of Dorothy Gillespie and her art and sculptures, which are located throughout town. People are probably very familiar with them. There is quite a large one in the lobby of this building. Her work is also in the Cameron Art Museum, UNCW, the Arboretum, and the Wilson Center, as well as the Wilma Daniels Art Gallery. We are very fortunate that we were contacted by Mr. Gary Israel of the Dorothy Gillespie Foundation regarding the foundation's desire to donate and relocate a piece of Ms. Gillespie's art to our new city building located at 929 North Front Street. I do want to thank not only Mr. Israel from the Gillespie Foundation, but especially Ms. Amy Grant of Art and Bloom in Mayfair Center, who has coordinated much of this, and Mr. Rob Coluccio for making this donation possible. And the city will accept delivery of this piece later this week, I hope.
Very good. Very nice. Well, With that, thank you for taking an interest in your government. We stand adjourned.